What was Earth like before the dinosaurs?
Tyrannosaurus, one of the most dreadful predators of primeval times.
This narrator is just incredibly iconic. I also watch videos of Meet Arnold, and yeah, I can definitely tell this guy. I can definitely hear this guy being just incredibly familiar.
It could develop a speed of up to 50 kilometers per hour. The terrifying creature was equipped with 6 dozen sharp fangs 30 centimeters each.
Fangs? I've never heard of anyone that called T-Rex's teeth fangs before.
And as a bonus, it had perfect stereo vision to spot prey from afar while staying out of sight. And all of this despite its massive size. But what if I tell you all these adaptations of the famous Lizard King seem absolutely trivial compared to the evolutionary tricks of other less-known creatures from deep antiquity?
This is a family of ammonites called Scaphitidae, which existed during the early Cretaceous to the early Paleocene. So the fact that you include this in a video which is supposed to be creatures before the dinosaurs is already wrong.
Let's do our own excavation to find. We'll also discover what other ancient monsters literally had razors for teeth.
Even Riddle themselves aren't safe from calling these prehistoric animals monsters. I feel like a lot of their videos are okay, like similar to that of Brightside or something, but not really when it comes to paleontology.
In short, what incredible animals of ancient times did you never know existed? Animals we know really well have absolutely crazy ancestors. The species we know today only began evolving after the Cretaceous Paleogene extinction event, which annihilated dinosaurs over 60 million years ago.
More specifically, non-avian dinosaurs, and you showed ostriches, which are birds, which are avian dinosaurs, which are still dinosaurs.
It might sound strange, but paleontological finds from that period turned out among the most unusual. This is a mammal called Doedicurus. The first representative of the species appeared on Earth 2 million years ago.
Already it would make the video misleading, because the Doedicurus, you clearly stated that a Doedicurus lived after the KPG extinction event. As you can see, even in the text you said that. But this video was supposed to be like, what was Earth like before the dinosaurs? This is already just misleading already. Sorry.
And became extinct relatively recently, only 8,000 years ago.
I can technically say that you're not wrong, because the Doedicurus went extinct 7,000 years ago, which is quite close to the 8,000 years ago, like you said.
This, at the same time, Doedicurus was herbivorous and relatively harmless.
You call these rhinos relatively harmless? I know, I'm not trying to demonize these rhinos, but these rhinos can be aggressive when they need to be.
Scientists think it was the ancestor of the modern-day cingulata. However, today's successors of the walking rocks weigh no more than 50 kilograms. That is, less than Doedicurus' tail alone. A similar thing happened to megatheriums, which were among the largest mammals ever living on Earth.
Still dwarfed in comparison to stuff like the Paleoloxodon.
Their oldest remains date well back to 20 million years ago.
What is this supposed to be about? Megatherium, are you talking about something else like Megatheridae? 20 million years ago, none of those first existed 20 million years ago.
And the most recent ones are only 11,000 years old. A single grown-up animal could be as long as 6 meters, and they weighed around 4 tons. When scientists first came upon a megatherium skeleton, they long argued about which family to include it in. It appeared there was nothing like it on Earth currently. However, somebody eventually compared the Megatherium's paw with a limb of a modern three-toed sloth. The structure was practically identical. So it turns out giant sloths ruled Earth millions of years ago.
I'd say they didn't rule the Earth, rather they roamed around it in the place that they lived, South America.
Moreover, they were most probably just as slow. And when early humans began hunting megatheriums, the giants simply couldn't escape. But there are other prehistoric monsters that could repel anyone. Feathered Gastornis, which prospered about 40 million years ago.
The Lutetian is the most recent extent that Gastornis lived, so a bit more than 40 million years ago. Also, shouldn't Gastornis be with some nuts? Like, not the no nut November type nut, but actual nuts.
Wasn't much bigger than a modern-day human.
Are you confusing it with something like a Forest Rakos or Kelenken?
Was practically unmatched in bloodthirstiness.
You just made the northern short-tailed shrew cry in the corner.
This bird could by itself easily deal with a large mammal, like a modern horse, let alone a smaller species. Gastornis' beak was so broad and powerful that it could cut its prey in half in a single movement. But instead of wings, Gastornis only had tiny underdeveloped limbs, which means flying was out of the question. Though the ancient bird's modern cousins, ostriches and kiwis, don't strive to conquer the heavens either, and are quite alright about it.
And there's also stuff like the Forest Rakos, the Kelenken, the Titanus, who were doing just fine for a very long time, even without all those wings and stuff.
The next prehistoric animal did reclaim a new environment. Ambulocetus lived about 50 million years ago and was among the first mammals that opted to live underwater. The extended streamlined body shape enabled it to move there fast, while its limbs resembled fins, which, however, ended with ordinary webbed fingers. That means Ambulocetus could easily walk whenever it wished, but at the sight of a predator, it literally sank to the bottom.
I thought it was meant to be a metaphor of the Ambulocetus just becoming dead, but given the Ambulocetus over here, it's just another animal with survival instincts, so it's going to have to run away and actually dive deep into the underground to be safe from predators. And there are also predators beneath the ocean, so Ambulocetus isn't completely safe.
Scientists believe those weird hybrids gave rise to whales and orcas.
This is not really a hybrid. A mule, for example, is a hybrid. A liger is also a hybrid.
But unlike most of the other species, today's marine mammals exceed their ancestors in size, as Ambulocetus weighed only 500 kilograms, which is 200 times less than the blue whale. But the further we go back in Earth's history, the more unbelievable and at the same time less known beasts we can find there.
And this video, have you forgotten about this? It's like, what was Earth like before the dinosaurs? And you're now talking about what was Earth like when the dinosaurs were around. Non-avian dinosaurs, to be exact.
Today, even a preschooler can name a dozen different dinosaurs, but they share the planet with other no less fantastic creatures. Amid the Mesozoic era, you wouldn't be as impressed by the long-known T-Rex.
By the way, how do you even get this spelling wrong? Like, have you even researched anything? Like, how to spell it?
Is a 10-meter-long furry duck with claws longer than Freddy Krueger's. Might seem a paleontologist's sick fantasy, but no, you're looking at Therizinosaurus. It lived 70 million years ago and weighed about 3 tons.
More like over 5 tons, which makes Therizinosaurus even bigger than it should be.
While its one claw was over 70 centimeters long, which is an absolute record among all creatures that have ever lived on Earth. Scientists thought they'd finally found a perfect predator that could slay anyone with a single swipe.
Slay anyone with a single swipe. I feel like a stab is more lethal than a slash.
But it soon turned out that Therizinosaurus was herbivorous and quite friendly.
Therizinosaurus was either herbivorous or omnivorous, and it would make things a bit worse than if it was a carnivore, because the Therizinosaurus is free to attack anyone that it deems as a threat.
Though researchers are still arguing about the purpose of its gigantic claws. Most probably, Therizinosaurus used them to defend against T-Rexes.
More like it was used to defend against Tarbosaurs, because the Therizinosaurus and Tarbosaurs actually coexisted with each other, and the T-Rex and Therizinosaurus did not coexist with each other. There really was no mechanical function identifiable for Therizinosaurus. Maybe it was used for slapping predators. Maybe it was used for foraging. But maybe it's also just decoration.
Because when such dangerous predators were everywhere around, even herbivores needed to be armed with several deadly accessories. However, seemingly cute and ridiculous animals may sometimes turn out to be much more bloodthirsty. Tenostrophius.
Finally, something that actually lived before the dinosaurs.
Lived about 230 million years ago and could grow as long as 6 meters. It looked like someone attached a snake to a giant gecko's body. That is quite awkward, isn't it? Moreover, Tenostrophius couldn't normally control its long neck, as it only consisted of 6 vertebrae.
This source is from 2019, so it could be a bit outdated, but didn't the Tenostrophius have 12 to 13 stretched-out vertebrae instead of just 6? 6 is a little bit stupid.
For comparison, the neck of today's swan has 23 of them. At first, scientists were sure the clumsy Tenostrophius posed no threat to other species and only ate small fish. But analysis of its jaw structure proved the opposite. The aquatic reptile had long, sharp teeth which enabled it to tear up even large prey, while the sedentary neck turned its head into a deadly ram, gnawing through flesh. Nonetheless, in the age of dinosaurs, even little creatures could outclass giants.
What do you mean by outclass giants? Is it some sort of other factors that make these little creatures better than these giant creatures? There really is no valid measure. There really is no sort of clear measurement of these creatures, to be honest. I can't think of anything. I don't think there is either.
The tiny Longus squama lived at the same time as Tenostrophius and was only 30 centimeters long. To have a chance to survive, it grew special antennae on its back. Nowadays, researchers think they were truly multifunctional. Using them, the tiny reptile not only attracted the opposite gender, but it could also glide in the air, jumping from great heights.
You can just use random photos of the Longus squama instead of whatever you're showing right now.
Moreover, the antennae could accumulate solar heat to warm Longus squama at night. Some scientists are even sure it was a highly specific means of self-defense. Enormous dinosaurs supposedly took the antennae for thorns of inedible plants.
But this scene is inaccurate because dinosaurs, they did not evolve to this type of dinosaurs just yet during the Triassic.
And didn't even try to hunt Longus squama. But other animals of the time could survive even without special tricks.
Dinosaurs warm-blooded too? Are you confusing something here? Are you confusing dinosaurs with crocs?
Belonged to the Theraspida group.
I have no idea how you got this pronunciation wrong. You got the spelling correct. Therapsida. Not whatever you pronounced.
An intermediary evolutionary link between ancient reptiles and mammals. Other therapsids that evolved from Lystrosaurus are our ancestors as well. Do you feel the warm-blooded pig reptile's ancient power?
Okay, so this video is clearly directed towards a bit of a younger audience. I mean, it does allow for some imagination, so I guess it's already automatically better than all these brain rot, lanky box channels, those skippity toilet, Riz, Mr. Beast, Minecraft, animation monster school videos.
Think of it while we're going deeper. What amazing animals dwelled on our planet before gigantic reptiles thronged it? Unfortunately, scientists rarely find anything in deeper layers of Earth's crust that relate to the Paleozoic era periods. But you'd hardly want to personally meet the creatures we already know. This is Gorgonops. It lived approximately 3 million years ago.
This is quite possibly the stupidest mistake that this channel has ever committed. It lived around 260 to 254 million years ago. It said 300 to 250 million years ago, which is already incredibly broad. But the fact that this channel, over here, this narrator says it lived 3 million years ago, when the text clearly says 300, is just absolutely insane. I don't think Gorgonops reached that long. Even for something like Inostransevia, it's already just a bit of a stretch. Inostransevia only reached around 3.5 meters in length.
In such ways to instantly immobilize prey in one bite. The ancient monster had a rather primitive brain, but its one area, the cerebellum, was developed better than the rest. But the strangest thing is that on some of Gorgonops' skulls, they found bizarre structures, so-called electroreceptors. A similar thing is found in modern platypuses. The electroreceptors help them orient in water. It means Gorgonops, if needed, could chase their prey underwater.
Fine, but at the same time, would it want to use ambush tactics more often, since it is a predator after all, and predators need to kill their prey efficiently?
Meanwhile, some other representatives of the ancient fauna could scare to death just with their appearance. In 1977, paleontologist Simon Conway Morris found strange fossils in British Columbia, Canada.
I'm 99% sure this is hallucigenia.
Everything showed that the weird creatures lived about 500 million years ago. It was only 3 centimeters long and consisted of an oblong body entirely covered with odd appendages.
I swear, literally every single one of these paleo channels that talk about the Cambrian mention hallucigenia one way or another.
2 rows of spiky legs and a row of tentacles on its back. One end of its body had a bulge, which scientists immediately identified as a head. However, they found no organs peculiar to this body part, eyes or mouth. All things considered, it seems this strange beast had its sensory organs on one of the tentacle sets. For a long time, researchers couldn't believe that something like that could really exist on Earth. So they named the creature hallucigenia, hinting that you could only see such a thing in a dream or a drug-induced delirium.
Well, I guess there's that. But then again, hallucigenia is an actual thing that existed in the Cambrian. So there's also that.
Some paleontologists are positive that the hallucigenia was a very specific centipede, having no analogs among known insects.
What? Hallucigenia? You just called hallucigenia a centipede. It's not even classified as an arthropod. It's a panarthropod.
This suggestion is so far impossible to prove, but at least we can be happy that another prehistoric centipede didn't make it to modern times.
Just to let you know, arthropod is more of a millipede than a centipede.
300 million years ago, Arthropleura crawled around Earth's forests, presumably making disgusting rustling noises, but you'd hardly be afraid you could step on it by accident.
I'm pretty sure, I'm 200% sure this is supposed to be some sort of movie clip.
The Arthropleura would probably crawl over you, as it was up to 2 meters long. Besides, the creature's shell was much tougher than modern arthropods' bodies, so not every predator could bite through it. But even animals with really sharp fangs rarely attempted to kill Arthropleura, as apart from all the rest, it could spit venom. And to hit the bullseye, the insect could stand on its hind limbs and draw itself erect.
I tried to search and I didn't even see anything about Arthropleura having venom.
So next time you're scared of a centipede in the kitchen, think that at least you won't have to fight an over 2-meter tall monster spraying venom in your eyes.
This is a little bit confusing. Like, I can't even search anything about Arthropleura's venom, so I can't even say if the Arthropleura having venom theory is correct or not.
300 million years ago, Arthropleura virtually had no enemies, except maybe a prehistoric scorpion.
Good thing it isn't that thing, but the Pterygotus and the Arthropleura did not coexist with each other as they lived in different times.
Pterygotus, which lived at
Like that thing, it's just another sea scorpion.
It allowed the giant scorpion to see its surroundings from different angles simultaneously and find its prey even if it took good cover.
This segment of the video is okay, because at least this channel is actually getting to the point. So I can say that this video isn't 100% misleading.
Moreover, this ancient scorpion was one of the first creatures on Earth which began making
To be Animalcaris/Opabinia, and there's also that thing.
What unbelievable beasts roamed the oceans millions of years ago? Among such was Helicopterion, which first emerged around 290 million years ago.
This text over here is just completely wrong, because Helicopterion didn't even get to witness the Great Dying.
It was something like a 10-meter-long shark, but with an absolutely incredible jaw. Modern sharks shed old teeth, making space for new ones. Helicopterion never dropped its teeth. The new teeth simply replaced the old ones, moving them to the front, and they went spiral together with the jaw. It resulted in something like a scary saw on the chin.
This is how prehistoric creatures work. They'll need to adapt in order to survive in their environment.
Besides, Helicoprion's huge mouth opened much wider than that of modern sharks. It captured prey with the backward bent front teeth, then closed the mouth abruptly, and the spiral-toothed jaw automatically shredded the prey. Though with such a torture device a tilt, Helicoprion couldn't swim fast. But the next monster succeeded even in that.
Again, calling these animals monsters for basically nothing.
Dunkleosteus, the prehistoric fish, lived as much as 350 million years ago and could grow up to 15 meters long.
Oh my god. 15 meters long Dunkleosteus. This is even more ridiculous than the 10-meter long Helicopterion estimate. Even before the revised estimates, Dunkleosteus only just reached up to around 30 feet long, and not 50 feet. 50 feet is even longer than a freaking Spino.
Weighed about 4 tons. It caught literally anything in its way with its mouth. Surprisingly enough, one of the most furious marine predators had no teeth at all. Instead, it had a pair of bone razors. Solid, sharp plates simply chopped prey, just like a butcher's axe. Dunkleosteus' bite force was about 7,500 newtons. To compare, a human's bite force is only 300 newtons. But the most significant advantage the ancient monster had was its agility.
More calling these animals monsters. Man, it's getting boring at this point. It's just stop.
Dunkleosteus could plow through the water at a speed of a small motorboat, up to 40 kilometers per hour, and it took it only 20 milliseconds to open its mouth. You'd literally be dead in the blink of an eye.
It isn't really how it works. You would probably just suffer from shock because of the excessive blood loss from the Dunkleosteus bite, and then you'll just bleed out to death.
At high speed, the water flow dragged prey into the Dunkleosteus's mouth, so all it had to do was shut it. And this ancient fish was so aggressive that it often attacked its own kin. Numerous marks left by the typical bone razors on fossil Dunkleosteus prove it. But what about even more ancient exotic animals? Most of the fossils of more or less large creatures we found come from the Cambrian period.
There are stuff like the Anabalancaris, but I feel like that's it, really.
Which began approximately 538 million years ago.
Funny how you showed 542 million years ago between Proterozoic and the Cambrian, but then you just pointed at 2.5 billion years ago between the Proterozoic and the Archean.
The Pre-Cambrian era was long considered the period of unicellular organisms.
This is most likely just meant to be Ediacaran biota.
Until one incredible discovery. In 1957, two school children climbing mountains in Charnwood, the UK, found strange imprints among rocks. The children invited researchers from the local university to look at the traces in the stone, but the scholars were skeptical. The region's rocks formed in the Pre-Cambrian era, and the scientists didn't expect to see anything interesting. How wrong they were. At closer inspection of the rocks, they found imprints of large plants, which had been previously believed impossible.
While it was considered to be a plant, this is actually an animal. The Charnia is an animal that was previously considered a plant. Ediacaran biota is just incredibly weird, and it's supposed to be incredibly simple. So even animals would look like ferns like this. And I have a feeling that whatever photograph you're showing here is not really Charnia.
When the scientists began studying other Precambrian residues, they found many more mysterious fossils. This bizarre creature, Tribrachydium, lived 560 million years ago.
Close enough. It lived around 558 to 555 million years ago and is classified as an animal.
And had a unique, complex anatomy. It consisted of 3 segments, each ending with a tentacle. Its length could vary. Perhaps those creatures back then, in deep antiquity, developed sexual dimorphism, and females looked different from males. This find radically changed paleontologists' view of how life on our planet evolved. Now, they can't attribute Tribrachydium to any of the known animal groups. But this fascinating antique fauna also had bloodthirsty predators.
I can't seem to find anything about the Tribrachydium having predators. It's probably because the Ediacaran biota was still simple and there was less need of predator-prey relationships.
In the mid-20th century, Australian geologist Reginald Sprigg found an odd fossil animal that was eventually named after him. Spriggina turned out even more ancient than Tribrachydium.
Not really. It lived 555 million years ago, and Tribrachydium also existed 555 million years ago.
And had a characteristic shape that resembles an oval or an arrow. It had a soft body covered with tiny spikes and bulges. Spriggina was initially assigned to a group of mollusk-like organisms, but later research revealed that its anatomy didn't match any of the existing animal groups. Moreover, cholesterol molecules were found in its fossils, which may indicate that Spriggina was a predator.
While it could be a predator, it's just incredibly primitive, with the Ediacaran biota having less need of predator-prey relationships. This predator, on the other hand, would have played a role on initiating the Cambrian transition. It might have.
The specific structure of its body plates can be another proof of it. Assuming that Spriggina participated in bloody fights, it could cause severe injuries to its opponents using its plates. So even 500 million years ago, before the gigantic dinosaurs and other beasts appeared, you'd barely be able to walk safely on Earth.
It's more so the environmental factors which would not be suitable for us humans to live in.
Nevertheless, some researchers of antiquity think we only see a part of the Pre-Cambrian picture of the world. They believe that Spriggina, Tribrachidium, and other vines from that period might only be fragments of other, more complex living beings that only left a partial imprint in stone. There's even a theory according to which we deal with the traces of real aliens that attempted to colonize Earth by bringing a zoo of beasts from the other world.
It's one of those paleontological conspiracy theories in which there really is literally no evidence of these aliens just bringing in those random creatures to Earth. That would just be invasive species, terrorizing everything. Invasive species of invasive species, guys.
But the most interesting thing is that owing to the acute lack of information about the Pre-Cambrian period, it's simply impossible to refute this theory scientifically.
The thing about Pre-Cambrian is that it literally encompasses every one of the Earth's times before the Cambrians. So, right when the Earth started existing.
What about you? Do you think that the most unusual animals of the past could be visitors from space?
I'm disappointed, because Riddle, I thought this channel was fine. I mean, it's still fine, but it shouldn't really touch paleontology. A lot of these channels just, when they talk about paleontology, they just flop. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you all next time.